is critical for all organizations to maintain situational awareness of potential physical incidents and take the necessary steps to prevent them and protect their employees and business assets from becoming victims of such disasters. There has been a renewed interest in the restoration and augmentation of facilities for major religious sites and other significant structures which witness high pedestrian traffic. The casualties caused by the devastating floods in Kedarnath in the recent past to the incidents of stampedes and fire casualties at religious sites worldwide contribute to the concerns of safety and security. Within India, there is a social fabric to the security of these structures. It undertakes responsibility of the local government, the religious authorities and the public, apart from divinity, in ensuring a foolproof, secure environment for disciples. In this episode of India Risk Report, we look to end the year 2017 with an overview of the risk assessments for religious sites, the need for security audits and application of its mitigating measures.
Hello and welcome to another episode of India Risk Report. And in this report, as a very special case, we look at the importance that we need to give in India to religious sites and social structures, particularly in the light of our smart city projects, where many of our smart cities are also very important towns of pilgrimages, as well as such large population numbers that in India that continue to visit religious sites and important social structures. There is a very big challenge to security of individuals, to sites and to our society. And we therefore have Mr. Rimpesh Sharma with us, who is a principal architect to the world's tallest religious site, I'm told, and is building equally tall big religious sites, 15 others elsewhere in the country. This tallest one currently is at Vrindavan. He's from the Ingenious Studio Private Limited. And we have with us Garry Singh, in a completely new dispensation. Garry, welcome again on the show, and you're responsible, I'm told, also for the security of the Taj Mahal when it was facing a great amount of threats, and Garry as president of IIRIS. So Garry, I'd go first to you. You know, it's a point which is often made that yes, we have large populations and therefore numbers are always large in India, but can you put it in context that the size of activities that are undertaken by the Indian state, and to its credit, it does go through pretty smoothly, things like the Kumbh Mela and various other initiatives, which have millions of people gathering together in masses of land, which are certainly not the size per capita that other countries make themselves out to be. I'm told Kumbh Mela has more than 100 million visitors, whereas Britain has, 60 million population. So we managed to do that pretty well. How do we, despite the non-engagement of other sectors outside the government, how do we manage to achieve that?
Sure, I think that's great, and that's the beauty of India. And when you look at it in terms of overall significant contribution to tourism, the domestic tourism has started playing far bigger role. So in India, the domestic tourists are almost 13 to 14 times of what the international tourists we get. And the amazing portion is that a lot of this domestic tourism is actually linked with direct religious tourism. We have temples which get more than 2.5 crore people every year visiting that place. We have Kumbh Mela. When 4 years back it happened, we had 120 million visitors to Kumbh Mela, and on a single day, 30 million people were together taking a bath. This is far larger than a lot of countries' population. So when we are looking at this, there is also another angle of life safety, security, as well as, I will definitely add on, the economy to the country is concerned. As of now, we are also managing to kill more number of people in stampedes on religious sites, the number of terrorist kills which happen in the main country other than Kashmir and Northeast.
Yeah, you've taken me to the next question, and this is what I wanted to ask Rimpesh. Rimpesh, you, an architect, you design religious sites, you plan religious sites. How is it that your design would feature in, particularly at places where you have millions of pilgrims, and one misjudgment, one sense of panic, and things go out of control? How is your design going to ensure that this doesn't happen?
I'll take you a step behind how these spiritual hubs really start off. They don't start with a vision that they would see millions of devotees one day. A big temple today might have just started in a priest's house maybe 500 years ago, and it has actually exponentially grown over the years, and it has started seeing a million devotees today. We don't blame the temples or spiritual structures which have already been done centuries ago, and we don't ponder on them that they are not architecturally right or they are not secure today. Now we have got engaged in a lot of spiritual developments which are very high magnitude in terms of people they see being visiting. Spiritual project it's like any other project which we would say. We do the need analysis first. How much my house can take? If I design a 3-bedroom house, I know I see about 5 people staying in that house, and if I have a small get-together, I can house about 20 people on a higher side. Similarly, a spiritual place is no different than that.
No, so I may interject here that do you find that the top management of spiritual places, they are conscious of the fact to need to take into account these factors?
Lately, yes, people have started acknowledging the problem, because tomorrow if I have to take my child to a temple or a spiritual place, they don't agree to go. First is the crowd management. Where does the problem arise? My house can hold 1,000 people, but at any given point there would be 10,000 already there. So you're already asking for a problem in your. There's something basically wrong in the whole setup how it runs in a spiritual place. So people have started acknowledging that there is a problem.
Okay, so there is an acknowledgement that there is a problem, but Garry, there is another problem, and I think it really affects the industry that you represent, and that is that the lack of governmental desire to seek expertise from people like yourself to address the problems. Everything seems to be left to the wisdom of CISF or the local police. So give us a quick brief on the mix between technology and expertise and how to take it to the next level where you establish trust with the government to allow you and people like yourself to play a more key role in important social structures and religious sites.
Sure, I think that's a great way to move forward as of now, because the challenges itself don't remain confined to some of the things we discussed. They also add on further, because we have the biggest challenge, people themselves. We know that we don't have evacuation trainings and safety drills at schools and colleges. So the biggest challenge itself becomes all these devotees who have come with the religious bent of mind, but also a challenge to themselves. And a stampede means they kill each other rather than anybody else from outside does it. So when this is happening, why we have seen a lot of time temporary structures getting erected which prevent the complete mass of devotees or large congregation to go inside the temple. That's great, but these structures, temporary in nature, while are preventing outside thrust from going in, if there is something inside which happens, the thrust towards outside also gets blocked, and that's where the big challenge comes up. So a lot of time these factors are getting ignored. I think technology is one of the best ways, and technology doesn't only mean that you have a camera which is counting people, looking at who's doing what, nobody leaving back behind. You also use technology to create flexibility within the infrastructure. By a push of a button, by need of the hour, why doesn't the infrastructure which was blocking people from come inside opens up so that the pressure points which are built inside because of any situation, whether humor or a genuine situation, can release the pressure for people to go out very, very quickly. So these are things which need to be carefully designed, planned, and implemented rather than they can be left unattended.
At that point, I have to cut in because we've got to go in for a quick break. But we will come back to look at how to incorporate religious and social structures in our new smart city projects. Many of them are actually smart cities in cities, which are also very important religious sites. But equally important is the aspect about public-private partnership. But that after a break. Welcome back. We continue to have our two experts with us, and we're looking at the security of important religious sites and social structures, particularly in the light of India wanting to build more and more smart cities. I go back to you, Rimpesh. You were making a very important point. But to go a little further from that point, the issue is that a lot of our smart cities are also seen to be traditionally cities for holy visits. I mean, Varanasi and Ajmer do come to mind, but I'm sure there are many more. How do you, I know it's all very well to design things from scratch, but is there any room for improvement in what already exists? Because those volumes are not going to go away. So you may have a perfectly nice religious structure in a smart city project 10 kilometers away from the main city, but the traffic and the activity is actually happening in those existing religious sites. Where can the government use architectural expertise to improve the state of play?
They should start from the acknowledgement, where what I said in the beginning. Acknowledgement of the problem is very important. If we acknowledge there is an issue, religion is not taboo. So there are problems with our existing infrastructure in and around religious structures. Moment the government or individuals maybe trusts people who run these places, they acknowledge that there's a problem, their correction mode automatically starts. They have not been designed so to take people in an organized fashion. Queue management is something very simple, and I don't think it needs any more money to even implement.
But some religious sites like Tirupati are very well managed.
But they grew into it. See, they acknowledge the problem and they have been working towards improving it every day. I mean, you go after every 2 months, 3 months.
And you have some really serious VIPs visiting those places. So they seem to know how to address the requirements of all structures. And one of the complaints that come out is that, you see, it's a very elitist world, and in a very elitist approach, it's also expected that in front of your Lord, you would get privileged access if you were an elite vis-a-vis if you are not. What's your view on that?
I wouldn't take it in a negative sense, because possibly Tirupati grew so big because there was so much of elite class, which faced the problem. Possibly a VIP car might not have got a parking next to the gate, so they created a VIP access. So moment the thought goes into organizing these movement, may it be vehicular or pedestrian or automatically the improvement starts in a religious structure. The thought has to begin somewhere. There's a lot being talked about VIP culture, but it has done good to few places. So Tirupati, so many VIPs go and it has grown.
Garry, I'll come to you. See, I want to take it a little further. See, my understanding is that security as a subject,
right,
and you and I know it quite well, right, that it is basically something that the corporates and the elites are willing to ensure that their security is very well taken care of, though they reluctantly still spend on it. And they expect that they've paid taxes, so the government will provide them all-encompassing security. Now, the government has a disconnect between who the government feels it needs to protect and who it shouldn't protect. And more importantly, the government is also a little wary of experts like you coming into the field and trying to tell them how to do their job when they feel because they are in uniform, they know it better. What are your views?
No, I think I will say that men in uniform, whether serving the police forces or the military, there's a definitely upgradation of skills. They're looking at global knowledge and a lot of openness in them. But going to a point here which is very crucial, and taking a clue from Rimpesh, first factor is acknowledgement. Thankfully, these religious sites, the amount of revenue they generate, they don't need government support by any chance to upgrade their security or ensure the safety standards. They can serve the elitist of the elite with best of luxury, forget about ensuring basic security. So the money coming in to these sites is so huge. So now, if these trusts and all the different boards which exist start acknowledging, it can be a great beginning. But now something which is left for government still, that we will not have everything as plain as a temple. because we will continue to have congregations, we'll have Kumbh Melas, we'll have a lot of other kind of Kumbhs, we will also have large number of people pouring into these sites on special days. They can be a Janmashtami when there will be huge crowds at a Krishna temple, but on a Mahashivratri there will be a huge crowd at a Shiv temple, and these are different structures. So everybody cannot have the same security. So if government is planning to have, whether through a private partnership, certain flexi structures, certain flexi security, which can move along with these congregation days, festival days, so that whenever there is a high crowd at one particular location, they are protected, they have the safety. And not to forget, these situations, these festivals, these incidents also are very actively seen by miscreants in the society. It can be right from a small pickpocketer to a large terrorist attack, which might be reviewing what's happening there. So government intervention, going out of box, looking at new ways to secure, cannot be ignored ever.
Okay, Rimpesh, the central point for interest to me is that where is it that you feel that if you were to provide a blueprint for in a list of structures across the country which has high volume activity already, right? What would be the 5 or 6 things that you would put your foot down and say, this must be there to ensure not just the security of and the safety of the people who visit, but to ensure many other fallout effects. Anything happens to the shrine obviously would have implications in terms of public sentiment, the image of the city, the image of the country. We also have certain religious sites which have now of late become very big foreign tourist attractions. So how do we guarantee all that? So what would you say would be your checklist?
I'll start with the clean building is a safe building. Now, clean is not just you have your waste management right. Clean means you have managed your man, machine and material right. So with man I meant the people who are managing the temple and the visitor management. If I have my queues right, I have my signage right, I think half of the problem I would have covered. Of course, there are a lot of religious structures are under terrorist threats, but historically, if we see the temples or spiritual structures, damage has been from the public within. Outsider attacks have been very, very few. The stampedes have evolved from the crowd itself. There has not been an outside intervention to create that. See, the challenge is the brief is always your spiritual place has to be very open and welcoming. But at the same time, I have to be safe and secure also. So there are two contradictory things anyways, what you're asking for. But very subtly, I have to control the right person. And very loudly, I have to tell to the wrong person that here I am equipped to handle you. So, I mean, that's the balance which we try to, strive for.
Safe, clean, good signage, and effectively doing a good balancing act. And Garry, I'm going to a question which I kept it for the last, and essentially it's about terror threats. Terror threats continue to exist. In our recent memory, we've had terror threats both by terror groups from Pakistan and their proxies in India, and other terror groups which necessarily don't have Pakistan connection but have used religious sites to create a certain amount of turmoil. And we all know there are a whole list of them. But how do you prevent this? I'm no great fan of CCTVs, right? That gives you the evidence that you want after that. But how do you prepare, preempt, and prevent?
Sure, I think that's a great way, because rather than just trying to find out who did it, we should really be looking at how to prevent it, or if it happens, how to minimize the damage. That should be really the focus. And as of now, something which I have seen is being adopted by some of the so-called congregation religious places is use of volunteers. As of now, when people are coming in, let's say even if I'm used to going into a temple every day, but on a particular day, they can be 10 times the people. The access system can look different from where I go in, how do I go out. I think one thing which is a must for every kind of security, safety, whether terror or otherwise, is use of volunteers. With a backdrop of Indian population not caring much about safety, security, and even after an incident not crying, as Rimpesh says, let's have these volunteers in religious clothes spread across, who are not only ensuring they're connected to the crowd, whether they're doing a chanting, guidance, whatever, but if something wrong happens, they also know that they will be able to guide this crowd rather than disturbing each other, hitting each other, to a more release of pressure and at a peaceful site or whatever that means. So use of volunteers is a big miss in a lot of locations. When it comes to terrorism, I think so be it. We have to take steps which are helping us to ensure safety inside the sites, because we have seen bomb blasts inside mosques, we have seen bomb blasts inside temples, and we have seen attacks on churches, gurdwaras, so nobody has been spared. So I will say there is no one hitting just one particular type of religious site, rather it's being very universally applicable to all. We need to ensure that we understand where the higher risks are. Higher risks are where the more number of people exist, there is a higher list of VIP coming in, or maybe the temple or a particular shrine has got far more religious sentimental value which can be sort of attached to that particular site. So higher the risk, simple, higher the security, then put your structures up. Let there be machines, let there be anything else that is needed, irrespective, there's God inside, but there are enough humans who need to be still protected from some other humans who want to kill these. So we need to ensure at the perimeter level, we conduct all the checks as stringently as we'll do for any other site, rather than just imagining because this religious site and nothing will wrong happen.
But there is generally a very aggressive response from a lot of visitors to say that, you know, why do you suspect us? We are all coming for a noble mission, and therefore, why are you putting us through this? So I've seen in a lot of religious sites and places that those metal detectors and all, and the policemen standing out there, they're a farce.
So as of now, I totally agree with you, but sometimes if we make these people understand, we are not against you, we are with you, and we are protecting you. By checking you, we are protecting you. So that message has to get clear, and somewhere or the other, I think we Indians are quick at learning. We are ignoring that fact. Let them learn that there's a security procedure, we can very well learn it. Let there be a hue and cry for 2 days. Third day, you will be amazed how well we can learn it. We learn it within 2 hours in Singapore and USA. 3 days will be good enough time for us to learn the security procedures at temples and follow it.
Well, on that encouraging note, and that optimistic note that I think we are still open to learning, we will have to put an end to this show. But quite clearly, some very important points have come up. One is that there is a need for much greater use of better design. There is a need for also a much greater engagement of inputs that the government could receive from experts on how to pan out the security in religious and important structures. But most importantly, I think it needs the involvement of the people and those who visit religious sites, that it is all being done in their interest. And, you know, if we can do it abroad, why don't we do it here? Thank you very much for being with us on the show, and we'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, goodbye.